The cabin smelled like fear. Lena pressed her back against the rough wood wall, fingers curled tight around the hilt of a hunting knife she wasn't sure she'd ever be able to use. Outside, the wind screamed through Silver Ridge Forest, rattling the shutters she'd nailed shut 3 weeks ago. Snow piled against the door in drifts that hadn't been cleared since the last storm. She should clear them. She should do a lot of things. Instead, she stood frozen in the center of the single room that had become her entire world, listening to the silence between gusts of wind, listening for the sound of footsteps, voices, the low warning growl that meant they'd found her. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. 3 months. She'd survived 3 months alone in this place, hidden so deep in the forest that even the maps called it abandoned territory. No pack claimed these woods. No hunters wandered this far north. It was perfect. 3 months since her adoptive father's funeral. 3 months since the elder had pulled her aside and whispered, "Thomas protected you as long as he could. Now you need to run." She hadn't understood then. She'd just run. Until it wasn't. Lena moved to the window, careful to stay out of sight. The glass was frosted over, but she'd learned to read the shapes in the ice, the way shadows moved, the difference between wind-bent branches and something alive. Nothing. Just trees and snow and the kind of cold that made her bones ache. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The fire in the stone hearth had burned down to embers. She should add more wood. Keep the warmth. But moving meant making noise, and noise meant being found, and being found meant... Her hand drifted to the base of her neck, fingertips brushing the edge of a scar hidden beneath her hair. No, don't think about it. She'd gotten good at not thinking about it. About the night 5 years ago, when she'd woken up marked by a rogue alpha she couldn't remember. About the searing pain and the blood, and the voices telling her it was over, the bond was broken, the alpha was dead. They'd lied about a lot of things. She was starting to realize that. Lena pulled her hand away and forced herself to move. She crossed to the woodpile stacked near the door, selected 2 logs, and fed them carefully into the hearth. Sparks rose. The fire caught. For a moment, she let herself feel the warmth. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Her entire body went rigid. The knife was in her hand before she could think, blade angled toward the door. The footsteps stopped. Silence stretched. Her heartbeat was so loud she thought whoever was out there could probably hear it through the walls. Then, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Lena's breath caught. No one knocked. Hunters didn't knock. Garrett's men didn't knock. They broke down doors or circled until you ran, and then they took you. But someone was knocking. "I know you're in there." The voice was low, rough, male, controlled. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her fingers tightened around the knife. "Go away." A pause. Then, "I can't do that." "Try harder." She heard him exhale, not frustrated, just tired, like he'd been walking for a long time and didn't want to fight. "Garrett's men are 2 miles south. They'll be here by dawn." His voice was steady, but something in it made her chest tighten. "If you stay here, you die." Lena's pulse spiked. "How do you know?" "Because I've been tracking them for 3 days." A pause. "And because they're tracking you." The room tilted. She should run. Climb out the back window, disappear into the trees, trust nothing and no one the way she'd been doing for 3 months. But something stopped her. His scent. It curled under the door like smoke, pine and earth and something wild she couldn't name. It shouldn't have been comforting. It shouldn't have felt like anything. But it smelled like home. And that terrified her more than the footsteps ever could. Who are you? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Another pause. Longer this time. Someone who's been looking for you. Her blood went cold. I don't know you. I know. His voice softened. But I know your scent. I've been following it for 5 years. The knife nearly slipped from her grip. 5 years, the same night, the same... No. You're lying. But even as she said it, her body betrayed her. The mark on her neck burned, a sharp flare of heat she hadn't felt in months. She gasped, hand flying to cover it. Open the door! His voice was closer now, right on the other side. Please. She should say no. She should tell him to leave, to go back to wherever he came from, to stop talking in that voice that made something inside her ache. Instead, her feet carried her forward. Her hand hovered over the bolt. If you're lying. I'm not. She didn't know why she believed him. Maybe because his voice sounded as lost as she felt. Maybe because the mark was still burning, and it hadn't done that since the night she'd tried to forget. Maybe because she was tired of being afraid. Lena slid the bolt free. The door opened, and she saw him. Rowan Pierce had been tracking ghosts for 5 years. He'd followed shadows through forests that didn't have names. He'd chased a scent that shouldn't have existed. Something soft and aching, like snow melting under sunlight. It had pulled him north, then west, then north again, always just out of reach. Until tonight. Tonight, the scent was real. He stood at the base of the cabin steps, snow clinging to his boots, and stared at the door like it might disappear if he moved too fast. His breath misted in the freezing air. His hands, scarred from 5 years of surviving alone, clenched and unclenched at his sides. She was inside. He knew it, the way he knew his own heartbeat. But he didn't know why. Rowan had spent 5 years trying to piece together the night his father died. He remembered blood. He remembered waking up in the dirt with his hands stained red and Garrett's voice in his ear. You killed him. Run, or they'll kill you too. He remembered running, but there were gaps, hours he couldn't account for. A scent that had haunted him ever since. Soft, frightened, hers. He didn't know her name, didn't know her face. He only knew that something inside him had been searching for her, and he didn't understand why. Rowan climbed the steps. The cabin looked ready to collapse. The roof sagged in one corner. The shutters were nailed shut. Whoever was inside didn't want to be found. He couldn't blame them. He raised his hand and knocked. 3 slow, deliberate strikes. Then he waited. Movement inside. A heartbeat, fast, panicked. The scent grew stronger. His chest tightened. I know you're in there. He kept his voice low, controlled. Didn't want to scare her more than she already was. I'm not here to hurt you. Go away. Her voice was sharp, but he heard the tremor underneath. I can't do that. Try harder. He almost smiled. Almost. Garrett's men are 2 miles south. They'll be here by dawn. He leaned closer to the door, lowering his voice. If you stay here, you die. Silence. Then, how do you know? Because I've been tracking them for 3 days, and because they're tracking you. He heard her breath hitch. Who are you? Rowan closed his eyes. Someone who's been looking for you. I don't know you. I know. And it was true. He didn't know her either, but his body did. Every instinct screamed at him to get closer, to make sure she was safe, to never let her out of his sight again. He didn't understand it. But I know your scent. I've been following it for 5 years. The silence that followed felt like a blade. Then he heard it, a sharp inhale, like she'd been burned. Open the door. He pressed his palm flat against the wood. Please. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the bolt slid free. The door opened, and Rowan's world stopped. She was small. That was his first thought. Smaller than he'd expected, with silver blonde hair that fell past her shoulders and eyes the color of winter storms. She held a knife like she knew how to use it. But her hands were shaking. And her scent, God, her scent, it hit him like a punch to the chest. Snow and cedar and something sweet he couldn't name. It wrapped around him, sank into his lungs, made every nerve in his body light up. Home. He didn't understand. He'd never met this girl, never seen her face. But something inside him recognized her. She stared at him, frozen in the doorway, and he watched her pupils dilate, watched her breath catch, watched her hand drift to the side of her neck, and stop. His gaze followed the movement. There, just barely visible beneath the fall of her hair, a shadow, the edge of something silver. His heart slammed against his ribs. "What's your name?" His voice came out rougher than he meant. She didn't answer, just stood there, staring at him like he was a stranger and a memory at the same time. "Lena," she finally whispered. "My name is Lena." Lena. The name didn't mean anything to him, but the way she said it, like she wasn't sure it belonged to her, made something in his chest crack open. "I'm Rowan." He took a step back, giving her space. "And we need to leave. Now." Her grip tightened on the knife. "I'm not going anywhere with you." "Then you'll die here." "Maybe that's better." His eyes snapped to hers. "It's not. You don't know that. I do." He didn't know how, but he did. The wind howled, snow swirled between them, and then Lena's hand moved, just slightly, back to her neck. The mark burned. She gasped. Rowan's breath stopped. Because in that moment, with her fingers pressed against her skin and her scent flooding the air between them, he felt it too. A pull. A recognition. Something that shouldn't have been possible. Their eyes met, and the world held its breath. The knife stayed between them. Lena didn't lower it, didn't move, just stood in the doorway with the blade angled toward his chest and her heart threatening to break through her ribs. His eyes were dark, not brown, not black, something in between. They held hers with an intensity that made her want to step back and step forward at the same time. She did neither. "You need to leave." Her voice didn't shake this time. She was proud of that. Rowan didn't move. "Garrett's men will be here in hours, maybe less. I'll be gone before then. Where will you go?" She didn't have an answer for that. She'd been running for 3 months with no destination, just away, always away. "That's not your problem." "It is now." He said it like it was fact, like he'd already decided. Her fingers tightened on the knife. "You don't get to decide that." "You're right." He took a step back, hands visible, non-threatening. "But I'm not leaving you here to die. You don't even know me." Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, or confusion. "I know." The mark on her neck pulsed again. Heat spread down her spine, made her breath catch. She pressed her free hand against it, trying to smother the sensation. His eyes tracked the movement. "What is that?" His voice had gone quiet, careful. "Nothing. It's not nothing. It's none of your business." She stepped back, ready to slam the door. He moved faster than she expected. His hand caught the edge of the door, holding it open, not forcing it, just stopping her from closing it. They were close now, too close. His scent wrapped around her again, and this time she couldn't pretend it didn't affect her. Her body leaned toward him without permission, drawn by something she didn't understand and didn't want. "Let go." Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Tell me what's on your neck." No. Lena. Don't say my name like that. Like he had a right to it. Like it meant something. He exhaled slowly, released the door, took another step back. The space between them felt wrong. She hated that it felt wrong. I followed your scent for 5 years. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. They hung at his sides, fingers curled into loose fists. I don't know why. I don't remember you. But every time I caught it on the wind, something inside me had to follow. Her throat tightened. That's not possible. I know. He looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. But it's true. The wind picked up. Snow blew through the open door, melting against the warmth of the fire behind her. She should close the door. End this. Go back to being alone where it was safer. Instead, she heard herself ask, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to live through the night." "Why?" He opened his mouth, closed it, shook his head. "I don't know." Honest. He was being honest. That made it worse. Lena looked past him, scanning the tree line. No movement, no shadows that didn't belong. But if he was telling the truth about Garrett's men, they were coming. And she knew what happened when they found you. She'd seen the bodies. Her grip on the knife loosened, just slightly. "If I let you in..." "You stay on that side of the room. You don't come near me, you don't touch me, and the second the sun comes up, you leave." Something in his expression shifted. Relief, maybe. "Deal." She stepped aside. Rowan crossed the threshold. The cabin felt smaller with him in it. He was tall, broad-shouldered, built like someone who'd spent years surviving on instinct. His coat was worn, patched in places. His boots left tracks of melting snow across her floor. He looked around once, assessing, then moved to the far corner like he'd promised. Lena closed the door, slid the bolt, kept the knife in her hand. They stood in silence. The fire crackled. Wind rattled the shutters. "How long have you been here?" he asked. 3 months? Alone? Yes. He nodded. Didn't ask why. She was grateful for that. "What about you?" She didn't know why she asked. Didn't care. Except she did. "I don't stay anywhere long." "How long have you been a rogue?" His jaw tightened. 5 years. The same. 5 years ago, her life had shattered. 5 years ago, he'd lost whatever had made him run. It couldn't be a coincidence. What happened 5 years ago? Her voice was steadier than her heartbeat. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, raw. "My father was murdered. I was framed for it. I've been running ever since." The words settled between them like stones. "I'm sorry." And she was. She knew what it felt like to lose everything in a single night. "So am I." Another silence. This one heavier. Lena moved to the fire, keeping distance between them. She set the knife on the hearth within reach and sat down on the worn rug. Her hands were still shaking. She curled them into fists to hide it. "The men hunting you," she said. "Who do they work for?" "Garrett Pierce. My uncle." The name meant nothing to her. "Why does he want me?" "I don't know." Rowan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "But he's been looking for you for weeks. I've been following his hunters, trying to figure out what he's planning." "And you just happened to find me first." "No." His eyes met hers. "I tracked your scent. I've been tracking it for years, but it was always faint. Distant. 3 days ago, it got stronger. I followed it here." The mark burned again. Lena pressed her hand to her neck, trying to breathe through it. "Does it hurt?" His voice was closer than it should have been. Her eyes snapped open. He'd moved without her noticing, halfway across the room now. "Stay where you are." He stopped, held up his hands. I'm sorry, when you touch your neck like that, I feel. He stopped, shook his head. You feel what? Nothing, it's nothing. But it wasn't nothing. She could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his eyes kept drifting to the side of her neck. Have we met before? The question came out before she could stop it. Rowan went very still. I don't think so. Then why does your scent feel like I know you? His breath caught. You feel it too? She shouldn't have said anything, shouldn't have admitted it, but the words were already out. Yes. The air between them shifted, charged. Show me your neck. His voice was rough. No, please. Why? Because I think. He stopped, started again. I need to see it. Why? She repeated. He dragged a hand through his hair. Snow melted in the dark strands. Because 5 years ago, the night my father died, there are hours I don't remember. I woke up covered in blood with no memory of what happened. And ever since, I've been following a scent that feels like it's tied to that night. Lena's chest tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know what happened that night, but I think you were there. The room spun. She was on her feet before she realized she'd moved. I've never. But even as she said it, fragments surfaced. A room, darkness, pain lancing through her neck, voices she couldn't place, and eyes, empty eyes that looked like they belonged to someone else. I need to see the mark, Rowan said quietly. It's not a mark. Her voice broke. It's a scar from an attack 5 years ago. He went pale. Show me. No. Lena, I said no. She grabbed the knife, held it between them again, but her hand was shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Rowan didn't move, didn't push, just stood there, looking at her like she was something fragile that might break. What happened to you 5 years ago? His voice was gentle. Too gentle. She didn't want to answer, didn't want to remember. But the mark was burning, and his scent was everywhere, and she was so tired of running from things she didn't understand. I was 19. My father took me to a meeting in Silver Ridge Territory. Political alliance, he said. Her voice was hollow. I don't remember most of it, just pain and blood. And waking up with a mark on my neck that shouldn't have been there. Rowan's face had gone ashen. Silver Ridge. They told me the Alpha who marked me was killed, that the bond was severed. Who told you that? My father, the pack elder. She swallowed. Everyone. What if they lied? The knife slipped from her fingers, clattered to the floor. What? Rowan closed the distance between them, not touching, just close enough that she could see the fear in his eyes. What if the bond was never severed? What if it's still there? That's not possible. Then why does my scent feel like home? His voice cracked. Why have I been tracking you for 5 years without knowing why? She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This is insane. I know. You're a stranger. I know. I don't know you. Then why? He whispered. Can't I leave? The mark flared. Heat coursed down her spine through her chest, pooling low in her stomach. She gasped. Rowan caught her arm as her knees buckled. The moment his skin touched hers, the world exploded. Light, heat, recognition. The bond roared to life between them, 5 years of dormancy shattering in a single breath. Lena's eyes snapped to his, and she saw it. Not the stranger standing in her cabin, the boy in the room 5 years ago, the empty eyes, the hands that had marked her while someone else pulled the strings. It was you. Her voice broke. You're the one who marked me. Rowan staggered back like she'd struck him. No, that's not. I would remember. But his hands were shaking. His eyes were wide with dawning horror. I would remember, he repeated. The bond pulsed between them, undeniable, alive. And outside in the distance, wolves began to howl. Lena stumbled backward until her spine hit the wall. The bond hummed between them like a living thing. She could feel it in her chest, her throat, the base of her skull. It pulled at her, urging her toward him. She wanted to scream. Rowan stood frozen in the center of the cabin, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. His breathing was ragged, uneven. I didn't. His voice was barely audible. I wouldn't have. But you did? The words tasted like ash. 5 years ago, you marked me. I don't remember. He looked up at her, and the anguish in his eyes was so raw it almost made her flinch. I swear to you, I don't remember. That doesn't change what happened. I know. He took a step toward her. She held up a hand. Don't. He stopped. The muscle in his jaw ticked. The howls outside grew closer. Multiple wolves, moving fast through the trees. Lena forced herself to focus. How many? At least 6. Rowan moved to the window, peering through a gap in the shutters. Maybe more. Can we run? Not in this snow, not with that many. He turned back to her. We'd have to fight. I can't fight 6 wolves. You won't be alone. She laughed. It came out broken. Right, because we're bonded, because you marked me 5 years ago and now we're stuck together. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He opened his mouth, closed it, dragged a hand through his hair. I meant I won't let them hurt you. Why? She pushed off the wall, anger flooding through her. It was easier than fear, easier than the grief clawing at her throat. Because of some bond you don't even remember creating? Because your body recognizes mine even though your mind doesn't? Because it's the right thing to do. The right thing. She laughed again. You marked me without my consent. You took my choice, and now you want to protect me? I was controlled. His voice rose. Someone used me, made me do it. Does that make it hurt less? She stepped closer, fury burning through her veins. Does that give me back the 5 years I spent thinking I was broken? That no one would ever want me because I was marked and abandoned? Rowan flinched like she'd struck him. No, he said quietly. It doesn't. The fight drained out of her as quickly as it had come. She sagged against the wall, suddenly exhausted. I can't do this, her voice cracked. I can't be bonded to you. I don't even know you. I don't know you either. He stayed where he was, giving her space. But the bond is real, and those wolves outside are real. So we can hate each other later. Right now, we need to survive. He was right. She hated that he was right. The howls were close now, maybe half a mile out. Lena moved to the hearth and grabbed the knife. What's the plan? We barricade the door, make them come through one at a time. Rowan scanned the cabin. You have anything else we can use as a weapon? There's an axe by the wood pile. He retrieved it, testing the weight. This'll work. They moved in tense silence. Rowan shoved the table against the door while Lena stacked firewood to reinforce it. Their hands brushed twice. Each time the bond flared, and they both jerked away like they'd been burned. When the barricade was done, they stood on opposite sides of the room, waiting. The howls stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. They're circling, Rowan murmured, looking for weak points. The back window. Lena's heart hammered. The shutters are loose. Can you cover it? She nodded and moved to the window, knife ready. Her hands were steadier now. Fear had a way of sharpening focus. A shadow passed outside, then another. They're testing us, Rowan said. Seeing if we'll run. Will they attack? Eventually. He positioned himself near the door, axe raised. Garrett's men don't take prisoners. What does he want with me? I told you, I don't know. Guess. Rowan was quiet for a moment. You said you were at a political meeting in Silver Ridge 5 years ago. That's my pack's territory, my father's territory. So Garrett killed my father to take control. If you were there that night, you might have seen something, heard something. His eyes met hers across the room. You might be a witness. The air left her lungs. A witness. Fragments swirled in her mind. A room. Shouting. The smell of blood. I don't remember, she whispered. Maybe that's why you're still alive. If you remembered, he would have killed you years ago. A crash shook the door. The barricade held, but barely. Here we go, Rowan muttered. Another impact. Wood splintered. Lena's pulse spiked. The bond thrummed, feeding her Rowan's tension, his readiness, his fear, not for himself, for her. She shoved the feeling away. The door burst open. A wolf lunged through, massive and gray. Rowan met it with the axe, driving it back. The wolf yelped and retreated. 2 more pushed through. Rowan swung again, catching one across the shoulder. It howled and fell back, but the second one darted past him, heading straight for Lena. She didn't think, just moved. The knife flashed. The wolf twisted, but not fast enough. The blade caught its side. It snarled and snapped at her. She ducked, rolled, came up with the knife ready. The wolf circled, blood dripping from its wound. Then Rowan was there, axe coming down. The wolf dodged and bolted back through the door. Silence fell again. They were both breathing hard. You okay? Rowan asked. I'm fine. You're bleeding. She looked down, a gash across her forearm, shallow but stinging. She hadn't even felt it. It's nothing. Let me see. I said it's nothing. Lena, don't. She backed away. Don't act like you care. His expression shuddered. Fine. They stood in the wreckage of the cabin, blood on the floor, the door hanging open, cold air pouring in. They'll come back, Rowan said. I know. We can't stay here. Where do you suggest we go? Her voice was sharp. You said running was suicide. That was before. He gestured to the broken door. Now we don't have a choice. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to leave, to take his bond and his guilt and get out. But the wound on her arm was throbbing and exhaustion was creeping in, and she was so tired of being alone. Fine. She grabbed her coat from the hook. We leave. Rowan moved to the door, scanning the tree line. They're regrouping. We've got maybe 5 minutes. Then we better move fast. They slipped out into the night. Snow fell in thick sheets, covering their tracks almost as fast as they made them. The forest was a maze of shadows and white. Lena followed Rowan because she didn't have another option. He moved like he knew these woods, like he'd spent years learning how to disappear. Maybe he had. They ran until her lungs burned and her legs screamed. The bond pulled at her with every step, urging her to stay close to him. She resented it, resented the way her body betrayed her, leaning toward him even as her mind screamed to run the other way. Finally, Rowan stopped at the base of a cliff, a narrow opening, barely visible in the dark. In here, it was a cave, small, cold, but defensible. They collapsed inside, backs against the stone, gasping for breath. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Rowan said, I'm sorry. Lena didn't look at him. For what? For marking you, for not remembering, for all of it. Sorry doesn't fix it. I know, his voice was rough, but it's all I have. She closed her eyes. The bond hummed between them, quieter now, but still there. Always there. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to be bonded to someone I don't trust. Then don't trust me. He shifted, and she felt his gaze on her. But don't push me away either. Not until we're safe. And after that, you never have to see me again. The words should have been a relief. They weren't. Lena opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked. He was watching her like she was something precious and terrifying all at once. "Why does your scent feel like home?" she asked quietly. "I don't know." His voice was barely a whisper. "But yours does too." The bond pulsed, not demanding, just present, a thread connecting them whether they wanted it or not. "I hate this," she said. "So do I." But neither of them moved away. Outside, the wind howled. Snow piled against the cave entrance, slowly sealing them in. And somewhere in the distance, wolves began to howl again. Closer this time. Much closer. Rowan's hand tightened on the axe. Lena gripped her knife. The bond flared between them, sharp and insistent. "They found us," she breathed. "Not yet." His eyes met hers. "But they will. What do we do?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, "We fight. Together. I don't want to fight with you." "I know." His voice was steady, certain. "But you will anyway." And she knew he was right. Because despite everything, despite the anger and the fear and the bond she never asked for, her body was already turning toward his. Already preparing to stand beside him. The first shadow appeared at the cave entrance. Then another. Then 5 more. Lena's breath caught. "Ready?" Rowan murmured. No, she wasn't ready, would never be ready, but she raised the knife anyway. "Ready." The wolves attacked, and the bond between them ignited like wildfire. The first wolf lunged. Rowan met it with the axe, driving it back into the snow. The second came from the side. Lena slashed with the knife, catching fur and flesh. The wolf yelped and retreated. 3 more circled the entrance, eyes glowing in the darkness. The cave was too small for all of them to enter at once. That was the only advantage they had. "Stay behind me," Rowan said. "No." Lena positioned herself beside him. "We do this together or not at all." He didn't argue. The wolves attacked in coordinated strikes. One would dart in while another circled, looking for an opening. They were testing defenses, wearing them down. Lena's arm burned where she'd been cut earlier. Her muscles screamed. But every time a wolf came close, the bond flared, and she knew exactly where Rowan was, what he was about to do. How to move with him instead of against him. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like breathing. A gray wolf lunged at her. She dropped low, drove the knife up. The wolf twisted midair, avoiding the blade, and crashed into the cave wall. Rowan swung the axe. Another wolf fell back, bleeding. "They're not trying to kill us," Lena gasped. "They're hurting us." Deeper into the cave, Rowan's jaw clenched. "They want us trapped. So we go deeper. We don't know what's back there. We know what's out here." She grabbed his arm. "Move." They retreated into the darkness. The cave narrowed, forcing them to move single file. Rowan went first, axe ready. Lena followed, knife in one hand, the other pressed against the cold stone wall. Behind them, the wolves poured into the cave. The passage twisted, descended. The air grew colder, thinner. There, Rowan pointed ahead. A faint glow, not firelight, something else. They emerged into a wider chamber. Ice covered the walls, reflecting pale moonlight from a crack in the ceiling far above. Snow drifted down in lazy spirals. It was beautiful. It was a trap. The wolves filed in behind them, cutting off the exit. 7 of them now, forming a semicircle. "Any ideas?" Lena's grip tightened on the knife. "One." Rowan moved to stand in front of her. But you're not going to like it. Try me. The bond. We can use it. Her stomach dropped. No. It's already active. You felt it during the fight. We moved together like we'd trained for years. That's different from using it. How? Because using it means accepting it. Her voice broke. And I can't accept this. Lena, I said no. The largest wolf stepped forward. Its eyes were intelligent, calculating. It growled low, the sound vibrating through the chamber. Then it shifted. Bones cracked. Fur receded. A man stood where the wolf had been, tall and broad-shouldered, with silver hair and a scar running down his left cheek. "Hello, nephew," the man said. Rowan went rigid. "Garrett." Garrett smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You're harder to kill than I expected. I respect that. What do you want?" "What I've always wanted. Control." Garrett's gaze slid to Lena. "And she's the key to keeping it." "She has nothing to do with this." "On the contrary." Garrett took a step closer. The other wolves closed in, tightening the circle. "She has everything to do with it." "You just don't remember why." "Then remind me." "Oh, I will." Garrett's smile widened. 5 years ago, I gave you a gift. A beautiful young Omega from a respected bloodline. I had you mark her in front of witnesses. A perfect, legitimate bond. Lena's blood ran cold. "The plan was simple," Garrett continued. "You'd bond with her, solidifying my claim to Silver Ridge through your connection to her family's political influence. Then you'd die tragically, and I'd comfort the widow. Eventually, she'd bond with me instead." "But I survived," Rowan said quietly. "Yes, annoyingly, you survived." Garrett's expression hardened. "And the bond remained incomplete, which means she's still tied to you, not me. A problem I've been trying to solve for 5 years. So you've been hunting her." "I've been protecting my investment." Garrett's eyes narrowed. "But now you've found each other. The bond is active again. I can see it from here." The bond pulsed as if responding to his words. "If you kill us both, you lose everything," Lena said. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "True." Garrett tilted his head. "Which is why I'm offering you a choice." "I'm not interested in your choices." "You will be." He gestured to Rowan. "I'll let him live. Exile, just like before. He runs, and I never hunt him again." "In exchange for what?" "You come with me willingly. Reject the bond with him. Accept a new bond with me." The words hung in the frozen air. "No." Rowan's voice was flat. "She's not going anywhere with you." "That's not your decision." Garrett's gaze stayed on Lena. "It's hers." Lena looked at Rowan. His jaw was clenched, hands white-knuckled on the axe. The bond thrummed between them, feeding her his fear. Not for himself, for her. "What happens if I refuse?" she asked. Garrett's smile vanished. "Then you both die, slowly, and I find another way to secure my claim." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" He nodded to his wolves. They moved closer, growling. "Test me." Rowan shifted, putting himself between her and Garrett. "You want her, you go through me." "That can be arranged." The wolves tensed, ready to spring. "Wait." Lena stepped forward. "I need time to think." "You have 30 seconds. That's not 29. Her mind raced. They couldn't fight 7 wolves. Even with the bond, they'd be torn apart. But going with Garrett meant a life worse than death. 20. She felt Rowan's hand on her arm. "Don't do this." "I'm not going to." "Then what?" 15. Lena looked up. The crack in the ceiling, moonlight streaming through. It was narrow, but maybe wide enough. 10. "Can you climb?" she whispered. Rowan followed her gaze. Understanding flashed in his eyes. "Yes." 5. On three, Lena said. Garrett opened his mouth to give the order. One, Lena breathed. Two, Rowan's hand tightened on hers. Three, they moved. Rowan threw the axe. It spun through the air, burying itself in the nearest wolf's shoulder. The wolf howled. Chaos erupted. Lena ran for the wall. Her fingers found holds in the ice, slippery but usable. She climbed, feet scrabbling for purchase. Below, Rowan fought bare-handed. A wolf lunged. He caught it mid-leap, threw it into another, but there were too many. Rowan! Lena reached down. He leapt, grabbed her hand. The bond flared, and she felt his weight like it was part of her own body. She pulled, muscles screaming, and he found a foothold. They climbed together. Garrett's roar echoed through the chamber. Stop them! Wolves leapt at the wall, claws scraping ice. One caught Rowan's leg. He kicked free, kept climbing. The crack was just above them now. Go! Rowan pushed her toward it. Lena squeezed through, ice scraping her skin. Cold air hit her face. She was on a narrow ledge, snow-covered and treacherous. Rowan followed, pulling himself through just as jaws snapped at his heels. They collapsed on the ledge, gasping. Below, Garrett stared up at them. Fury etched in every line of his face. This isn't over, he shouted. It is for tonight, Rowan called back. They ran. The ledge connected to a slope. They half slid, half fell down it, snow flying. At the bottom, Lena's legs gave out. She collapsed. Rowan caught her. We have to keep moving. I can't. You can. He pulled her up. Just a little further. They stumbled through the trees. The bond guided them, pulling them forward even when exhaustion made every step agony. Finally, they found shelter. An overhang of rock, barely big enough for two people. They crawled under it and collapsed. For a long time, neither spoke. They just breathed, listening for sounds of pursuit. None came. The storm had picked up. Snow fell in thick curtains, erasing their tracks. We're safe, Rowan said. For now. Lena nodded. She was shaking, whether from cold or adrenaline she couldn't tell. Here. Rowan shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. You'll freeze. I'll be fine. Rowan, please. His voice was quiet. Let me do this. She pulled the coat tighter. It smelled like him, pine and earth and something wild. Despite everything, it was comforting. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded. They sat in silence, backs against the stone. The space was so small, their shoulders touched. Every point of contact sent heat through the bond. What Garrett said, Lena began, about you marking me in front of witnesses, was that true? I don't know. Rowan's voice was hollow. I don't remember any of it. How is that possible? Blood magic. It's the only explanation. He looked at his hands. He controlled me, made me do it, then wiped my memory clean. Why? Because if I remembered, I would have fought it, would have refused. Would you? She turned to look at him. If you'd been in control, would you have marked me? His eyes met hers. No, never without your consent. The words should have comforted her. Instead, they made her chest ache. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Be bonded to you. I don't either. He was quiet for a moment. But maybe we don't have to figure it out right now. Maybe we just survive, together. And after? After you decide. If you want to reject the bond, I won't stop you. You'd let me go? Yes. The certainty in his voice broke something inside her. She looked away, blinking back tears she refused to shed. Outside, the wind howled, and inside the shelter, the bond hummed between them, quiet. Waiting. Morning came gray and cold. Lena woke, pressed against Rowan's side. his arm around her shoulders. She'd been shivering in the night, and at some point he'd pulled her close. The bond hummed contentedly at the contact. She hated how right it felt. Carefully, she extracted herself. He stirred but didn't wake. In sleep, his face was younger, less haunted. She could almost see the person he'd been before everything fell apart. Before Garrett destroyed him. Before he destroyed her. Lena stepped out into the snow. The storm had passed, leaving everything white and pristine. Beautiful, if you ignored the cold, trying to kill you. She touched the mark on her neck. It had burned constantly since Rowan arrived, a reminder she couldn't escape. 5 years she'd believed it was severed, broken, meaningless. 5 years of lies. Behind her, she heard movement. Rowan emerged from the shelter, hair dusted with snow. "How long have you been awake?" His voice was rough with sleep. Not long. He moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain distance. "We should keep moving. Garrett won't stop looking." "I know. There's a safe house 2 days north. We could... I want to see it." The words came out before she could stop them. Rowan went still. "See what?" "The mark." She turned to face him. "You need to see it too. Really see it." His throat worked. "Lena, you said you don't remember marking me. Maybe seeing it will help." She lifted her chin. "Or maybe it won't. But I need to know." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he nodded. Lena's hands trembled as she reached back, gathering her hair. She twisted it over one shoulder, exposing the base of her neck. Rowan stepped closer. She felt his breath against her skin, warm in the frozen air. "There," she whispered. He was silent for so long she thought he might not say anything at all. Then, "It's mine." His voice was broken. "I know." The pattern, the placement, everything. His fingers hovered near the mark, not quite touching. "It's exactly how I would have done it." "Does it help you remember?" "No." The word was anguished. "But it proves Garrett was telling the truth. I did this to you." Lena let her hair fall, covering the mark again. She turned to face him. "You were controlled. Does that matter?" His eyes were haunted. "I still took your choice, still marked you without consent. It matters to me." She didn't know why she said it, didn't know why it was true, but it was. Rowan looked at her like she was something he couldn't understand. "Why?" "Because you're not the one who hurt me. Garrett is." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You were a weapon. He wielded you." "That doesn't absolve me." "I'm not trying to absolve you." Her voice hardened. "I'm trying to understand what happened, and I can't do that if you keep drowning in guilt." He flinched. "Tell me about that night," she said. "Everything you remember." "It won't help. Let me decide that." Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then he sank down onto a fallen log, elbows on his knees. "I remember dinner with my father. We were celebrating something. A new alliance, maybe. I don't know." He stared at his hands. "I remember drinking wine, then nothing, just blank space." "For how long?" "Hours. When I woke up, it was almost dawn. I was in the forest, covered in blood." His voice went hollow. "My father's blood, and I had a knife in my hand." Lena's chest tightened. "Garrett found me, told me what I'd done, said the pack would kill me if they found out." Rowan's hands clenched into fists. "He helped me run, gave me supplies, a head start. I thought he was saving me. But he was really just cleaning up loose ends." "Yes," Rowan looked up at her. "He framed me for murder and made sure I'd never come back to challenge him." "What about the mark? When did that happen?" "I don't know. The gap in my memory is at least 6 hours. It could have been any time during that." He stood, began pacing. But if witnesses saw me mark you, it must have been early in the night, before the murder. Lena's mind raced. My memories are fragmented too. I remember arriving at Silver Ridge. My father introduced me to people. Then nothing until I woke up marked and in pain. Magic. Rowan's voice was bitter. Blood magic can suppress memories, control actions. Garrett must have had help. An elder, probably. Someone with power. Is that reversible? I don't know. Maybe. He stopped pacing, looked at her. Why? Do you want to remember? Did she? The thought of recovering those lost hours terrified her, but not knowing was worse. Yes, she said. I want to know what really happened. Rowan nodded slowly. Then we need to find the elder who helped him. They're the only one who can break the memory block. Where do we start? With my father's journals. He kept records of everything, including which elders had access to Silver Ridge. His jaw tightened. They're hidden in my family's den, in the heart of Garrett's territory. That's suicide. Probably. He met her eyes. But it's the only way to get answers. Lena thought of Garrett's face in the cave, the cold certainty in his voice when he'd offered her a choice. Come willingly or die. He won't stop hunting us, she said quietly. No. And running won't work forever. No. She took a breath. Then we don't run. We fight back. Something shifted in Rowan's expression. Hope, maybe, or relief that he wasn't alone anymore. You're sure? No. She wasn't sure of anything. But I'm tired of being afraid, and I want to know the truth. Even if it's worse than you imagine? Even then? Rowan held her gaze. Then he extended his hand. Partners? Lena looked at his hand, calloused from years of survival. Scarred from fights he'd barely won, the hand that had marked her while someone else pulled the strings. She took it. Partners. The bond flared at the contact, warm and insistent. This time she didn't pull away. They stood like that for a moment, hands clasped, the forest silent around them. There's something else, Rowan said. Something Garrett mentioned in the cave. What? Your bloodline. He said you came from a respected family. That marking you gave him political influence. He hesitated. Do you know who your real parents were? Lena's stomach dropped. What do you mean, real parents? The people who raised you, are they your birth parents? She stopped, thought about Thomas Hart, the man she'd called father for as long as she could remember, but her memories only went back to age 10. Everything before that was fog. I don't know, she whispered. Rowan's expression gentled. Your memories were suppressed too, not just of that night, of your childhood. Why would they do that? To hide who you really are. He squeezed her hand. Garrett doesn't care about random omegas. He chose you specifically, which means your bloodline matters. The ground felt unsteady beneath her feet. Who am I? I don't know yet. Rowan's voice was steady. But we're going to find out. Lena pulled her hand free, wrapped her arms around herself. This is too much. The bond, the memories, and now I don't even know if my entire life has been a lie. I know. He took a careful step closer. But you're not alone in this. Not anymore. Because we're bonded. Because we're partners. He said it like it mattered. Like she mattered. Bond or no bond, I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Something in her chest cracked open. She looked at him, really looked. Saw the exhaustion in the lines around his eyes, the guilt he carried like a weight, the determination beneath it all. He'd been alone for 5 years, so had she. Okay. Her voice was barely audible. Okay? We do this together. Find the journals. Get our memories back. Figure out who I really am. She met his eyes. And then we take Garrett down. Rowan's expression shifted. Something fierce and protective and entirely too intense. Then we take Garrett down, he agreed. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and snow and something else. Lena stiffened. Do you smell that? Rowan's head snapped up. Smoke. They looked at each other. They found the shelter, Lena breathed. They're tracking us. Rowan grabbed her hand. We need to move. Now. They ran. Behind them, the forest erupted with howls. But this time, Lena wasn't running away. She was running toward answers, toward truth, and maybe, despite everything, toward the man beside her. The bond sang between them as they moved through the trees. No longer a cage, a lifeline. The howls grew closer. Rowan pulled her left, down a slope thick with undergrowth. There's a river ahead, he gasped. We can lose them in the water. How far? 1/2 mile. Lena's lungs burned. Her legs screamed, but she kept running. They burst through the tree line. The river stretched before them, dark and fast-moving. Can you swim? Rowan asked. Yes. Then jump. They leapt together. The icy water hit like a fist. Lena gasped, went under, fought her way back to the surface. Rowan was beside her, already swimming downstream. She followed. The current carried them away from the howls, away from Garrett's hunters, away from everything, toward Silver Ridge, toward the truth, together. The river spat them out a mile downstream. Lena dragged herself onto the muddy bank, coughing water from her lungs. Every muscle trembled. Her clothes were soaked through, already stiffening in the cold. Rowan collapsed beside her, chest heaving. For several minutes, neither of them moved. They just lay there, staring at the gray sky, too exhausted to do anything else. We need shelter, Rowan finally said, or we'll freeze. Lena nodded, couldn't find the energy to speak. He pushed himself up, offered her a hand. She took it. The bond warmed at the contact, spreading heat through her frozen limbs. They stumbled through the trees until they found an old hunter's cabin. The door hung crooked on its hinges, and half the roof had caved in, but one corner remained intact. It would have to do. Rowan started a fire while Lena peeled off her soaked outer layers. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely work the buttons. Here. Rowan appeared beside her. Let me. She should have said no, should have maintained the distance they'd been carefully preserving. But her fingers wouldn't cooperate, and the cold was seeping into her bones. Okay. His hands were steady as he helped her out of the wet coat. He moved to the corner where old blankets were stacked, shook them out, draped one over her shoulders. Your shirt, too, he said, not looking at her. It's soaked. Turn around. He did. Lena stripped off the wet fabric, wrapped herself in the blanket. Okay. Rowan turned back. His own shirt clung to his frame, dripping. You should get close to the fire. So should you. He pulled off his shirt without ceremony. Lena's breath caught before she could stop it. Scars. So many scars. Across his chest, his shoulders, his back. 5 years of survival written on his skin. He noticed her staring. Not pretty, I know. They're not ugly. The words came out before she could think. They're proof you survived. Something flickered in his eyes. He looked away, grabbed a blanket for himself. They sat by the fire, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The flames gradually thawed the numbness. How long before they find us again? Lena asked. A few hours if we're lucky, less if we're not. Rowan fed another stick to the fire. The water will have hidden our scent, but they know we're heading somewhere. Garrett's smart. He'll figure it out. Then we rest now. Move again at dusk. Agreed. Silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with things unsaid. Lena's hand drifted to her neck, touching the mark through the blanket. Does it hurt? Rowan's voice was quiet. Not anymore. She dropped her hand. It did at first, like burning, but eventually it just became part of me. I'm sorry. You've already apologized. I'll probably apologize 1,000 more times before this is over. Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. Don't, it gets old. Noted. Another silence. The fire crackled. Can I ask you something? Lena said. Anything. What was he like, your father? Rowan's expression softened. Strong, fair. He believed pack came first, but not at the expense of individuals. He stared into the flames. He taught me that real strength wasn't about dominance. It was about knowing when to fight and when to protect. He sounds like a good man. He was. Rowan's voice roughened, which is why Garrett killed him. Good men are dangerous to people like my uncle. Lena thought about Thomas Hart, the man who'd raised her. Had he been good? Or had he been part of Garrett's plan all along? I don't remember my father, she said quietly. Not my real one. If Thomas Hart was even my real father. We'll find out. What if I don't like what we find? Rowan looked at her. Then we deal with it. Together. That word again. Together. It should have felt like pressure. Instead, it felt like relief. I've been alone for so long, Lena admitted. I don't know how to let someone in. Neither do I. He shifted slightly. And their shoulders touched. Neither pulled away. But maybe we can figure it out as we go. The bond hummed softly between them. Why doesn't it hurt anymore? Lena asked. The bond. At first it felt like it was tearing me apart. But now it's just there. Because you stopped fighting it. Rowan's voice was careful. That doesn't mean you've accepted it, just that you're not actively trying to destroy it. Is there a difference? Yes. He turned to look at her. Acceptance means choosing it. You haven't done that yet. Have you? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if I have the right to choose something that was forced on both of us. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. It's not. They sat with that truth between them. Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began to fall again, soft and silent. Lena's eyes grew heavy. The warmth of the fire, the exhaustion in her bones, the steady presence beside her. It was too much to resist. You should sleep, Rowan said. I'll keep watch. Wake me in 2 hours. We'll switch. Lena, 2 hours, Rowan. You need rest, too. He nodded reluctantly. She lay down near the fire, pulling the blanket tight. Within moments, sleep pulled her under. She dreamed of fragments, a room filled with people, her father's voice, urgent, someone's hand on her arm guiding her forward, then pain, searing, terrible pain at her neck, and eyes, dark eyes empty of recognition, staring at her as teeth broke skin. Lena jerked awake with a gasp. Easy. Rowan's hand was on her shoulder. You're safe. Her heart hammered. Sweat dampened her skin despite the cold. I saw it, she whispered. In the dream. I saw you mark me. Rowan went still. What did you see? Your eyes. They were empty, like you weren't even there. She turned to look at him. You weren't, were you? When you marked me, you weren't really there. No, his voice was raw. I don't think I was. Then who was? Garrett, or whoever he had controlling me. Rowan's hand fell away. I was just a puppet. But it was still your teeth, your mark. She sat up, blanket clutched around her. Does that make it yours or his? I don't know. Lena reached out before she could stop herself. Her fingers touched his jaw, turning his face toward hers. "Look at me," she said. He did. His eyes weren't empty now. They were full of pain, guilt, and something else she couldn't name. "It's yours," she said quietly. "The mark is yours, not his." Yours. Lena, I'm not saying I've forgiven you. I'm not saying I've accepted the bond. Her thumb brushed his cheek. But if I'm going to be marked, I'd rather it be by someone who hates what was done than someone who planned it. Rowan's breath caught. That's the most twisted logic I've ever heard. Welcome to my life. Despite everything, he almost smiled. Then his hand came up, covering hers where it rested against his face. I don't deserve your understanding. Probably not. She should pull away, should reinforce the walls between them. She didn't. But I'm giving it to you anyway. The fire cast shadows across his face. In the dim light, he looked younger, more vulnerable. Why, he whispered, because I'm tired of being angry. And because when I look at you, I don't see the person who hurt me. She swallowed. I see the person who's trying to make it right. Something broke in his expression. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His forehead touched hers. They breathed the same air, close enough that she could feel his heartbeat through the bond. I'll spend the rest of my life making it right, he said. Whether you accept the bond or reject it, whether you stay or leave, I'll make it right. I believe you. The words were barely a whisper, but they hit like a vow. The bond flared between them, warm and bright, not demanding, just present, acknowledged. They stayed like that for a long moment, connected but not claiming, close but not crossing the final line. Then Rowan pulled back slowly. You should sleep more, he said, voice rough. So should you. I will, after you. Lena wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her again, heavier now. 2 hours, she said. Then you wake me. 2 hours, he agreed. She lay back down. This time when sleep came, there were no nightmares, just warmth, and the steady sense of someone watching over her, someone she was beginning to trust. When she woke, more than 2 hours had passed. The fire had burned low. Outside, full darkness had fallen. Rowan sat against the wall, eyes closed but posture alert. Not quite asleep, just resting. Lena watched him for a moment, studied the lines of his face, the scars he carried, the way his hand stayed near his makeshift weapon even in rest. 5 years alone, like her. The bond whispered between them, soft, patient, waiting for a choice she wasn't ready to make. But maybe someday she would be. Rowan, she said quietly. His eyes opened immediately. We should move. He nodded, stood, offered his hand. She took it. Their clothes had dried by the fire. They dressed in silence, gathered what little they'd brought. At the door, Rowan paused. Silver Ridge is 2 days northwest from here. We'll have to cross into Garrett's territory. I know. Once we're there, there's no turning back. I know that too. He looked at her. Are you sure about this? Lena thought of the mark on her neck, the stolen memories, the life she'd lived believing lies. Yes, she said. I'm sure. They stepped out into the night. Together. The bond hummed between them as they moved through the darkness. Still fragile, still uncertain, but growing stronger with every step. Behind them, something howled. Not close yet, but coming. Always coming. Lena's hand found Rowan's in the dark. He squeezed once. They ran toward Silver Ridge, toward answers, toward whatever truth waited in the heart of enemy territory, and the bond, that unwanted gift, carried them forward. Silver Ridge territory began at the stone markers. Lena felt the shift immediately. The air grew heavier, thick with territorial scent markers. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back. Rowan's hand tightened on hers. Stay close. They'd traveled through the night and most of the day, stopping only when exhaustion made moving impossible. Now, as dusk fell again, they stood at the edge of the land that had destroyed both their lives. "Where's the den?" Lena whispered. "Center of the territory, about 3 miles in." Rowan scanned the trees. "Garrett will have guards posted. We'll need to avoid the main paths. And if we're spotted, we run." Not reassuring, but honest. They moved through the forest like ghosts. Rowan led with the confidence of someone who'd grown up here, who knew every tree and stone. Lena followed, trusting the bond to guide her when her eyes couldn't. An hour in, they heard voices. Rowan pulled her behind a massive oak. They pressed against the bark, barely breathing. 2 wolves in human form walked past, close enough to touch. Guards on patrol. "Garrett's getting paranoid," one said. 3 extra patrols tonight. Can you blame him? His nephew's still alive, that's a problem. Not for long. Once we find the girl, Rowan will come running. Then we end both of them. They moved on, voices fading into the distance. Lena's pulse hammered. Rowan's face had gone carefully blank. "They're using me as bait," she breathed. "I know." "We should leave. This is a trap." "Probably." He looked at her. "But we're already inside. Might as well finish what we started." "That's insane." "Yes," his mouth quirked. "But you're still here." She wanted to argue, couldn't find the words, because he was right. They continued deeper into the territory. The den appeared through the trees like something from a nightmare. It was massive, built into the side of a hill, stone and wood blending seamlessly. Torches burned at the entrance. Guards stood at attention. "How do we get in?" Lena asked. "There's a back way. Tunnel my father had built for emergencies." Rowan pointed east. "Through there." They circled wide, avoiding sightlines. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a false rock face. Rowan moved the stones aside, revealing darkness. "Stay behind me," he said. "And whatever happens, don't make a sound." They descended into the earth. The tunnel was narrow, suffocating. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Lena kept one hand on the stone wall, the other gripping Rowan's shirt. After what felt like hours, but was probably minutes, they emerged into a basement storage room. Dusty crates lined the walls. Moonlight filtered through a high window. "The journals are in my father's study," Rowan whispered. 2 floors up. They moved through the den like shadows. Every creak of floorboards felt like thunder. Every distant voice made Lena's heart stop. The study door was locked. Rowan produced a knife, worked it into the mechanism. The lock clicked. They slipped inside. The room was exactly as he'd left it 5 years ago. Books lined the walls. Papers covered the desk. Everything coated in dust. Rowan moved to a panel behind the bookshelf, pressed a hidden catch. A compartment opened. Inside, 3 leather journals. "Got them." He tucked them into his coat. "Let's go." They turned toward the door. It opened. Garrett stood in the doorway, 6 guards behind him. "Hello, nephew," he said pleasantly. "I've been expecting you." Rowan shoved Lena behind him. "How did you know?" "Please." Garrett stepped into the room. "You think I don't have eyes everywhere? I knew the moment you crossed into my territory." He smiled. "In fact, I counted on it." The guards filed in, surrounding them. "Let her go," Rowan said. "This is between us." "Oh, but it's not." Garrett's eyes fixed on Lena. "She's the key to everything. Always has been." "What are you talking about?" "Did you really think I chose her at random?" Garrett laughed. Lena Hart, or should I say, Lena Marlowe. The name hit like a physical blow. Lena's vision swam. What? You don't remember, do you? The elders did excellent work suppressing your memories. Garrett moved closer. Your real parents were Julian and Iris Marlowe, alphas of Moonvale Pack. The room tilted. No. But even as she said it, something shifted in her mind, fragments surfacing. A woman's face, silver blonde hair like her own, gentle hands, a voice singing. A neutral territory with significant political influence, Garrett continued. Peacekeepers, mediators, everyone respected the Marlowe name. His expression hardened, which made them extremely dangerous when they opposed my claim to Silver Ridge. Rowan's hand found hers, grounding her. They publicly stated I had no right to challenge Marcus, that family loyalty was sacred, that what I was planning was an abomination. Garrett's voice went cold. So I eliminated the problem. You killed my parents? Lena's voice was hollow. I had them killed. There's a difference. He waved his hand dismissively. Made it look like a territory dispute. Rogue attack on Moonvale Pack. No one suspected me. Clean. Efficient. I was there. The memory was surfacing now, sharp and painful. I saw them die. You were 6 years old, crying in the corner while your world burned. Garrett tilted his head. You survived. That was unfortunate. I'd have preferred no witnesses. Then why didn't you kill me? Her voice shook with rage. Because I'm not wasteful. Garrett's smile returned. The Marlowe name still had value. Everyone knew the bloodline, respected it. I realized you could be useful later, once you were old enough. He gestured casually. Thomas Hart owed me several favors. I had him adopt you, bring you to Ashbourne, far from anyone who might recognize you. We changed your name to Hart, had Elder Kane suppress your memories. You grew up believing you were Thomas's daughter. Perfect. Lena couldn't breathe. Her entire life had been a lie. For 13 years, I kept you safe, controlled, an investment for the future. Garrett's eyes gleamed. Then 5 years ago, when I was ready to move against Marcus, you were 19. Old enough to bond, old enough to serve your purpose. The forced marking, Rowan said quietly. Exactly. Garrett looked pleased. A Pierce-Marlowe bond, witnessed and legitimate. It would have secured my claim permanently. The other packs would have recognized it. You'd bond with her, I'd kill you, and eventually she'd bond with me. Everyone wins. Except us, Lena whispered. Well, yes, except you. Garrett shrugged. But you're pawns. Pawns don't get to choose. They opposed your claim to Silver Ridge, Rowan said. You murdered your own brother. I did what was necessary for survival. Garrett's smile vanished. Marcus was weak. Our family was dying under his leadership. Someone had to be strong enough to do what needed to be done. You're not strong. You're a coward who murders children's parents and manipulates the innocent. The knife pressed deeper against Rowan's throat. Blood welled. Rowan! Lena struggled against the guard's grip. Garrett looked at her. You care about him, even after everything he did to you. He didn't do anything. You did. The mark on your neck says otherwise. His teeth, his claim. The mark was forced by you. Does that matter? Garrett tilted his head. Your body is still bonded to him. Your life is still tied to his. That's real, regardless of how it happened. Let him go. Lena's voice shook. Please. Why should I? Because I'll do whatever you want. I'll reject the bond. I'll accept a new one with you. I'll tell the other packs whatever you want me to say. She met his eyes. Just let him live. No. Rowan tried to rise. The guard slammed him back down. Lena, don't. Interesting. Garrett studied her. You'd sacrifice yourself for him? Yes. Even though he marked you without consent? Even though this bond has caused you nothing but pain? Yes. Garrett was silent for a moment. Then he laughed. How disappointing. I thought you'd be smarter than this. He gestured to the guards. Kill him. Wait! Lena screamed. The blade moved, and something inside Lena shattered. Heat exploded from her body. The guard holding her flew backward, hitting the wall with a sickening crack. The others staggered, shielding their eyes. Power flooded through her. Silver light, blinding and pure. The bond wasn't just humming anymore. It was roaring. Impossible, Garrett breathed. Lena looked at her hands. They glowed with silver fire. Marlowe power, Rowan's voice was filled with awe. The legends were true. The guard at Rowan's throat had loosened his grip, distracted by the light. Rowan moved fast, disarmed him, drove the blade into his shoulder. He grabbed Lena's hand. Run! They burst from the study. Guards shouted behind them. The entire den erupted into chaos. The silver light pulsed with every heartbeat, lighting their way through the darkness. They reached the tunnel, plunged into it. Behind them, footsteps thundered. What's happening to me? Lena gasped. Your bloodline. Marlowe Omegas have dormant power. It activates under extreme stress. Rowan pulled her faster. Usually to protect their mate. Their mate. The word hung between them. They burst from the tunnel into the forest. The silver light was fading now, flickering like a dying flame. Lena's legs buckled. Rowan caught her. I've got you. Can't. Too tired. I know. But we have to keep moving. Behind them, wolves poured from the den. At least 20. Maybe more. Rowan looked at her. The bond. If we complete it, the power will stabilize. We'll have a chance. Complete it? Her mind was foggy. How? You have to accept it. Fully. Choose it. I can't think. Everything's spinning. Lena. He cupped her face. Look at me. She did. His eyes were dark and desperate and entirely focused on her. I know I don't deserve it. I know I have no right to ask. But if you can find it in yourself to choose this bond, to choose me, we might survive. Wolves burst through the trees. And if I can't, she whispered, then we die here, together. The bond pulsed between them, waiting, always waiting. Lena thought of her parents, her real parents, murdered by the man hunting them now. She thought of Thomas Hart, who'd stolen her memories, her identity, her life. She thought of Rowan, controlled and used, carrying guilt for crimes that weren't his. They were both victims of Garrett's ambition, both broken by the same hands. The wolves closed in. Lena's vision blurred. She looked at Rowan and made her choice. Lena's hand found the mark on her neck, the one forced on her 5 years ago, the one she'd hated, hidden, tried to forget. She pressed her fingers against it and felt Rowan's heartbeat through the bond. I choose this. Her voice was barely a whisper. I choose you. The world exploded with light. Silver fire erupted from the mark, spreading across her skin, through her veins, into every cell. The bond that had been dormant, incomplete, shattered by trauma, suddenly blazed to life. Rowan gasped. His own mark appeared, silver and bright, mirroring hers. The wolves attacking them stumbled back, shielding their eyes. Lena felt power surge through her, not just hers, his too, combined, amplified, unstoppable. She rose to her feet. Rowan stood beside her. Their hands found each other, the bond completed with a sound like thunder. Every wolf in the clearing felt it, the snap of connection, the solidifying of something that had been hanging by threads for 5 years. Garrett emerged from the trees, eyes wide with fury and fear. No. His voice was raw. That's not possible. The bond was broken. I made sure it was broken. You made sure it was incomplete. Rowan's voice was steady, powerful. There's a difference. And now it's complete. Lena stepped forward. The silver light pulsed with her heartbeat, which means your claim to Silver Ridge just ended. You're nothing, a forgotten Marlowe heir with no pack, no power, no legitimacy. Wrong. She smiled. It wasn't kind. I'm a Marlowe bonded to a Pierce, the two most respected bloodlines in the Northern Territories, and unlike your rule, ours wasn't built on murder and lies. The guards shifted uneasily. Some lowered their weapons. She's right, one muttered. A Pierce-Marlowe bond. The packs will recognize it. Silence! Garrett's control was slipping. She's been gone for years. No one remembers her family. I remember. An older wolf stepped from the shadows, gray-haired, scarred, but standing tall. I served under Julian Marlowe before his death. I'd know his daughter anywhere. Elder Matthias. Rowan's voice was filled with relief. You're alive. Barely. Garrett's been hunting anyone loyal to the old ways. Matthias moved to stand beside them. But I'm here now, and I recognize Lena Marlowe's claim. Other wolves stepped forward. Not many, but enough. As do I, said a younger woman. And I, said another. Garrett's face twisted with rage. Traitors, all of you. No, Rowan's voice cut through the clearing. Loyal. To the packs, not to you. I am the pack, Garrett roared. He shifted mid-sentence, bones cracking, fur erupting. His wolf form was massive, black as night, eyes burning with hatred. He lunged at Lena. Rowan shifted faster, intercepting. The two wolves collided in a tangle of fur and fangs. Lena's instinct screamed to help, but Matthias caught her arm. This is between them, Alpha law. But Rowan's hurt. He's exhausted. He's also bonded to you now. Feel the connection. Share your strength. Lena closed her eyes, reached through the bond. She felt Rowan's pain, his exhaustion, his determination, and underneath it all, the fear that he might fail, that Garrett might kill him and take her anyway. She pushed back through the bond, not with words, with feeling. You're not alone. I'm here. We're stronger together. In the clearing, Rowan's movements changed, became faster, more precise. The silver light from their bond flickered across his fur. Garrett sensed it. His attacks grew desperate, wild. Rowan waited for an opening, then struck. His jaws closed around Garrett's throat, not killing, just holding. Dominance, not death. Garrett struggled, slowly stopped. Rowan held him there for a long moment, then released him, stepping back. Garrett shifted back to human form, blood streaming from bite wounds. Finish it, he spat. Kill me like I killed your father. No. Rowan shifted back as well. That would make me like you. Then what? Garrett laughed bitterly. You banish me? I'll just come back. No, you won't. Lena stepped forward. The silver light still pulsed around her. Because every pack in the Northern Territories will know what you did. The murder, the blood magic, the forced bonds. You'll be hunted wherever you go. By who? You? Garrett sneered. You're an Omega. No one fears Omegas. They will fear this one. Matthias's voice was grave. Marlowe power hasn't been seen in generations. Those who witnessed it tonight will spread the word. And the Pierce bloodline backs her claim, Rowan added. As the rightful heir to Silver Ridge, I acknowledge Lena Marlowe as my mate and equal. Her voice carries the same weight as mine. Murmurs spread through the gathered wolves. Garrett looked around, saw his support crumbling. You're making a mistake. She's weak. She'll destroy this pack. The only one who destroyed anything here, Lena said quietly, was you. Garrett lunged one last time. Lena didn't move. The silver light flared, a barrier between them. He hit it and flew backward, crashing into a tree. When he looked up, blood dripping from his mouth, his eyes held something new. Fear. Take him, Rowan said to the guards still loyal. Hold him until the pack council can meet. Let them decide his fate. The guards moved forward, hauled Garrett to his feet. This isn't over, Garrett hissed as they dragged him away. Yes, Lena said, it is. They watched him disappear into the den. The clearing slowly emptied as wolves returned to their duties, uncertain but willing to see what came next. Finally, only Lena, Rowan, and Matthias remained. The journals, Rowan said suddenly. He pulled them from his coat, miraculously intact. We still need answers. Later, Matthias's expression was gentle. You both need rest and healing. The pack will wait. You've just completed a bond and defeated their alpha. They need time to process. He gestured toward the den. There's a guest wing. It's safe. I'll post guards I trust. Rowan looked at Lena. Are you okay with that? She should be terrified. They were in enemy territory, surrounded by wolves who'd hunted them for days. But the bond hummed with certainty, and exhaustion was pulling at her so hard she could barely stand. Yes, she said. Matthias led them inside, through corridors that should have felt threatening but somehow didn't. The guest wing was simple but clean. A bedroom with a large bed, a bathroom, a sitting area. I'll have food brought, Matthias said, and someone to tend your wounds. Thank you. Rowan's voice was hoarse. Matthias paused at the door. Your father would be proud, Rowan, of how you handled this, how you both did. Then he was gone. The door closed. Silence filled the room. Lena and Rowan stood there staring at each other. The bond pulsed between them, different now, complete, solid. Are you okay? Rowan asked. I don't know. She touched her neck. The mark was warm under her fingers. Are you? I don't know either. They stood in the silence, processing everything that had happened. You chose the bond, Rowan said quietly, even after everything. I did. Why? Lena thought about it, about the fear and anger and pain, about the way his scent felt like home, his presence felt like safety, his guilt felt like penance. Because the bond wasn't the problem, she said finally. Garrett was, and because when I thought you might die, I realized something. What? That I didn't want to lose you. She met his eyes. The mark was forced. The bond was manipulated. But what I feel when I'm with you, that's real. That's mine. And I get to choose what to do with it. Rowan crossed the space between them in 2 strides. His hands cupped her face, gentle despite the violence they'd just survived. I don't deserve this. Don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled, despite the exhaustion. But I'm choosing you anyway. Why? Because you gave me the choice, even when it would have been easier not to. He rested his forehead against hers. I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of that choice. I know. They stood like that, breathing together, the bond settling into something that felt less like a chain and more like a foundation. A knock at the door. A healer entered with supplies and food, tended their wounds efficiently, then left. They ate in comfortable silence. Then Lena looked at the bed, large enough for 2. The implications were clear. I can sleep on the floor, Rowan said immediately. Don't be ridiculous. She climbed onto the bed, fully clothed, and patted the space beside her. We're bonded now. Might as well get used to it. He hesitated. Are you sure? Rowan, We just fought off 20 wolves and completed a 5-year-old bond. I think we can handle sleeping in the same bed." He smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his face. "Fair point." He lay down beside her, careful to leave space between them. Lena closed her eyes. The bond hummed, content. After a moment, she felt his hand find hers in the darkness. She squeezed once. He squeezed back. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For choosing me. For giving me a chance I didn't earn." "You earned it." Her voice was soft. "Every time you put me first, every time you gave me the choice, that's how you earned it." His thumb traced circles on her palm. Outside, the pack settled into uneasy quiet. Inside, 2 broken people lay side by side. Not healed, not whole, but together. And for the first time in 5 years, neither of them felt alone. The bond pulsed between them, no longer a curse, a promise, one they'd chosen, together. Morning light filtered through the window. Lena woke to find herself pressed against Rowan's chest, his arm wrapped protectively around her. At some point during the night, they'd gravitated together. The bond hummed contentedly. She should pull away, maintain some distance. Instead, she let herself have this moment. His heartbeat steady under her ear, his warmth driving away the chill, the certainty that she was safe. His hand moved, fingers threading through her hair. "You're awake," she murmured. "Have been for a while." His voice was rough with sleep. "Didn't want to wake you." "We should get up, face whatever comes next." "We should." But neither of them moved. The bond pulsed. Lena felt his reluctance to let go, mirroring her own. Finally, she pulled back. Their eyes met. "The journals," she said. "We should read them." Rowan nodded, sat up. He retrieved them from where he'd left them on the table. They sat side by side on the bed, opening the first journal together. Marcus Pierce's handwriting was neat, precise. The entries detailed pack business, alliances, territorial disputes. Lena skimmed through months of mundane records. Then she found it, a single entry dated 5 years ago, 2 days before everything fell apart. "Rowan, look at this." He leaned closer, reading over her shoulder. "Meeting with Elder Kane today. He offered his services for the upcoming alliance ceremony with the Marlowe heir. Claims he can ensure the bond takes properly, given the political sensitivities. I'm uncertain. Blood magic makes me uncomfortable, even for legitimate purposes. But Garrett vouches for him. Will consider it." "Elder Kane," Rowan's voice was tight. "That's who performed the ritual. Your father didn't know it was a trap." "No, Garrett used his trust against him." Rowan flipped through more pages. "There has to be more." They found it near the end, a letter tucked between pages, written in different handwriting. "Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm likely dead. Garrett has been meeting with Kane in secret. I've overheard enough to know they planned something during the alliance ceremony. I don't know what, but I fear for your life and your son's. Please, be careful. Trust no one, not even family. Your loyal friend, Thomas Hartlena's breath caught. Thomas knew. He tried to warn your father. He was working with Garrett at first, but something changed." Rowan's jaw clenched. Maybe he developed a conscience. Maybe he realized how far Garrett would go. "He raised me after my parents died, changed my name, suppressed my memories." Lena's voice shook. "But he tried to stop Garrett from killing your father. That has to mean something. It means he was complicated, like most people." They sat in silence, processing. A knock at the door. Matthias entered, his expression grave. "The Pack Council has assembled. They're ready to hear your claim." Rowan stood, offered Lena his hand. "Together?" She took it. Together. The council chamber was filled with wolves, elders, warriors, representatives from allied packs. All eyes turned to them as they entered. Garrett sat in chains at the center, flanked by guards. His face was bruised, but his eyes still burned with defiance. Matthias stood before the council. We are here to address the crimes of Garrett Pierce and to recognize the rightful leadership of Silver Ridge Pack. There is no rightful leadership, Garrett spat. Rowan is an exile. The girl is a ghost from a dead pack. Lena Marlowe is the daughter of Julian and Iris Marlowe, murdered on your orders. Matthias held up documents. We have testimony from survivors. We have your communications with those who carried out the attack. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. And Rowan Pierce, Matthias continued, was framed for his father's murder using blood magic, a crime we can now prove. He presented Marcus Pierce's journal, the letter from Thomas Hart, and testimony from wolves who'd witnessed Garrett's meetings with Elder Kane. The evidence was overwhelming. The council recognizes these crimes, the head elder said. Garrett Pierce, you are found guilty of murder, conspiracy, and use of forbidden magic. Your claim to Silver Ridge is void. Garrett lunged against his chains. You can't do this. I built this pack into something strong. You built it on corpses and lies, Rowan said quietly. That's not strength. That's tyranny. The head elder turned to them. Rowan Pierce, as the son of Marcus Pierce, you have the right to claim leadership of Silver Ridge. Do you accept this responsibility? Rowan looked at Lena. Through the bond, she felt his uncertainty, his fear of becoming what his uncle had been. She squeezed his hand. You're nothing like him. You'll be a good leader. His eyes softened. Not alone. We'll lead together. I accept, Rowan said aloud, with Lena Marlowe at my side, as equals. Shocked silence filled the chamber. An Omega co-leader, someone whispered. She's more than an Omega. Matthias stepped forward. She carries Marlowe power, dormant for generations but awakened now. She's the bridge between Silver Ridge and the neutral territories. Her claim strengthens ours. And she's my mate. Rowan's voice was firm. Chosen, not forced. If Silver Ridge won't accept her as an equal, then I don't want to lead it. The head elder studied them for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The Marlowe line was always respected for wisdom and fairness. Perhaps it's time Silver Ridge remembered those values. He looked around the chamber. All in favor of recognizing Rowan Pierce and Lena Marlowe as joint leaders? Hands raised, not everyone, but enough. It's decided. The head elder struck his staff against the stone floor. Silver Ridge recognizes its new leadership. Garrett's roar of fury was cut off as guards dragged him from the chamber. Lena watched him go, feeling nothing but emptiness where hatred should have been. Is it really over? She asked quietly. The hard part's just beginning, Rowan murmured. Rebuilding trust, healing wounds, leading a pack that's been broken for 5 years. Sounds terrible. It does. Good thing we're doing it together. He smiled. Good thing. The council dispersed. Wolves approached to offer cautious congratulations or voice concerns. Lena and Rowan handled each conversation with patience. Lena turned to Matthias. Garrett said witnesses saw the marking 5 years ago. Why didn't anyone recognize me when I returned? Most were his allies. The few who questioned what they saw disappeared shortly after. Matthias's expression was grim. That's how he maintained control, through fear and silence. Those of us who suspected the truth had no proof, no alternative leader to rally behind. Until now. What about Elder Kane? Rowan asked. He's the one who performed the blood magic. He's as guilty as Garrett. Fled the moment Garrett fell. Matthias's jaw tightened. We're searching, but he's covered his tracks well. The blood magic he performed will haunt this pack for years. But without Garrett's protection, he's just a rogue elder. We'll find him eventually. Lena nodded, though unease still prickled at her. One day, perhaps, they'd have full closure. But for now, Garrett's defeat would have to be enough. Finally, as evening fell, they found themselves alone again. They stood on a balcony overlooking Silver Ridge territory. The forest stretched endlessly, beautiful and wild under the setting sun. I never thought I'd come back here, Rowan said. Thought I'd die in exile. I never thought I'd know who I really was. Lena leaned against the railing. Now I have a name, a history, a purpose. Do you regret it? Choosing the bond? She considered the question. The mark on her neck was warm, constant. The connection between them hummed steadily, no longer painful or invasive, just present. No, she said, I don't regret it. Even though it was forced at first, it was forced by Garrett. You and I, we chose what came after. She turned to face him. That's what matters. Rowan pulled something from his pocket, a small carved wolf, worn smooth with age. I found this in my father's study. He made it when I was young. He held it out to her. I want you to have it. Why? Because you gave me something I didn't deserve, a second chance, trust, a future. His voice roughened. This is all I have to give back. Lena took the carving, closed her fingers around it. It's not all you have. What do you mean? You have yourself, your loyalty, your strength, your ridiculous determination to make things right. She smiled. That's what I chose, not a mark or a bond. You. Something in his expression cracked open. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. She felt him trembling. I'll be worthy of that choice, he whispered. I swear it. I know. She wrapped her arms around him. You already are. They stood like that as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The bond between them settled into something that felt less like a connection and more like coming home. What do we do now? Lena asked. We rebuild. Silver Ridge, our lives, everything Garrett destroyed. Rowan pulled back enough to look at her. We make something better than what came before. That sounds exhausting. It will be. And dangerous. Probably. And there's no guarantee we'll succeed. No. He cupped her face. But we'll fail or succeed together? That's the only guarantee I can give. Lena thought about the girl she'd been 3 months ago, hiding in a cabin, afraid of everything, certain she'd never be free. She thought about the woman she was now, standing in enemy territory that was somehow home, bonded to a man she'd once feared, ready to lead a pack she'd never imagined belonging to. I'll take those odds, she said. Rowan smiled, the real smile, the one that transformed his face. Then he kissed her. It wasn't their first kiss, but it felt like one, soft and sweet and full of promise. The bond sang between them, not demanding, not painful, just right. When they pulled apart, the last light of day was fading. We should go inside, Rowan said. Early start tomorrow. 1 more minute. Lena turned back to the view. I want to remember this. Remember what? This moment, when everything changed. She looked at him. When I stopped running and started living. He took her hand, threaded their fingers together. Then I'll remember it with you. They stood together as night fell over Silver Ridge. 2 people who'd been broken by the same hands, healed by the same choice. The mark on Lena's neck glowed softly in the moonlight. No longer a brand of ownership, a symbol of survival, of choice, of home. Behind them, the den was warm with firelight and the sounds of packs settling in for the night. Ahead of them, an uncertain future full of challenges they'd face together. Lena squeezed Rowan's hand once. He squeezed back, and somewhere in the bond between them, she felt something she hadn't felt in 5 years. Peace. They turned and walked inside, together, always together. The door closed behind them, and Silver Ridge finally began to heal. If you loved Lena and Rowan's journey from enemies to chosen mates, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more emotional werewolf stories. Drop a comment below telling me which moment hit you the hardest. Was it the mark reveal? Your support means everything. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tell me where you are listening from.